Okay, hello everyone. Let's see here. Okay, there's sort of 11 people here. Okay, so we've got a number of questions put in by everyone. So thank you very much for everyone to do that. If you guys have comments, you can obviously comment in the chat session, and I might see that and hopefully comment on that as well if I see it. And then if you have sort of new questions, we'll try to get to those as well towards the end after we finish up the rest of the questions. And yeah, I'll go from there. So first question is from Carmine. It says, I'm 3 days into a 5-day fast, and typically at the end of my fast, I incorporate colon cleanse. I've had problems in the past with polyps, but thankfully the last checkup was clear. Near the end of the fast, I use some laxatives that I take when preparing for a colonoscopy. Something came to mind which never occurred to me before. Am I flushing out, pardon the pun, any good bacteria from my colon when I do this? Yeah, you're definitely doing that. It's sort of an unnatural way for your body to work. This is forcing things to go out. That's not necessarily, uh, you know, going out by design. You fast for 5 days, you're not going to have anything in your gut anyway. So it's not like you have like these big blockages and you haven't gone to the bathroom because you need to take a laxative. You definitely don't. If you want to do a real colon cleanse, 5 days of fasting will do that. There's nothing going to be there anyway. You're going to make some mucus and bacteria, and that's it. So I wouldn't think that that's something that's necessary or beneficial. I don't think that's something that's going to add any value to your life. You don't have to fast at all. I don't think that's something that's necessary, but I certainly don't think that you need to do a colon cleanse after a fast. As to your polyps, those quite often are caused by high insulin levels, so hyperinsulinemia. So you get skin tags on the surface of your skin. You get polyps on the inside of your colon, sort of like you think of those as skin tags in your colon. So, getting onto a carnivore diet, just stopping eating carbohydrates in general, that's going to help that significantly. So that's not surprising that those have been better, and I think that will continue to stay that way as long as you're eating like this. Mike asks, I've been working on trying to help someone with a lap band surgery on their stomach. That, as you know, creates just a small pouch to limit food intake. She doesn't have a gallbladder and says fat causes too much loose stools. I see that as a semi-good thing to at least see where she is and to slowly work up from leaner beef till liver starts compensating for loss of gallbladder. I know carnivore is the most nutrient-dense way to eat and most bioavailable as well, and that it is vital for her being only able to eat such small quantities at any given time. My suggestion is hamburger meat and eggs, or a piece of steak and eggs. And as she can handle the fat in time to get the ratio up. Do you know of any other food ideas that may have helped in your experience with such patients? I don't want to overlook something obvious. No, I think that's a good approach. It's you want something small enough and dense enough, right? So meat obviously is the way to go. Things like rendered fat, like tallow, can be a bit more difficult because that can just sort of just go through much more quickly. So if she needs a bit more time and bile to drip out, things like just the actual fat, is going to take a little longer for that to render out and then get absorbed. She will still make bile. She'll still make bile from her liver. It just won't be stored in her gallbladder because she doesn't have one. And so it'll just drip out constantly. So the problem there is not a lack of bile. It's a lack of a concentrated store of bile that's ready to go at any time. And so it's going to be dripping out bile constantly. And then so when she eats, she just has to eat smaller meals throughout the day so that she just sort of catches this bile that's sort of just floating around in her stomach and lower intestine and small intestine, and then she'll be able to absorb it that way. But she'll need to eat multiple times a day, which sounds like will probably be what she needs to do anyway because of her gastric band. So I would say the same thing. Hamburger meat's probably going to be the easiest for her to digest um, and deal with. Eggs as well, and I would also suggest that she does not drink any water within 2 hours of eating, and certainly not during the meal because she doesn't have much real estate there anyway. And so filling that up with water is going to, you know, waste a lot of space that she really needs to get food into. Some people think about like ox bile and things like that. I'm not a big fan of that just because you want to use your body's own bile, and you don't really want to go above that because your body's made a certain amount of bile for a reason. I don't think your body just makes things haphazardly. And so if it's making a certain amount of bile, that's probably because that's how much fat it wants. And if you're taking in ox bile, you're forcing your body to absorb more fat. Now, in her case, it's a bit of a gray area because if she's really having trouble absorbing this stuff because she's just not really able to time things right to get the bile from her liver, then and she wants to eat sort of a bigger meal in one go that she's not going to be able to digest and absorb properly. Otherwise, it might be a good option. I wouldn't rely on it though. I would try to time it so that she's having multiple meals throughout the day that are small enough that she's comfortable eating that way and that she has enough bile to take this stuff in. That's what I would do. But the ox bile is an option, but I would use it as a last resort. Some people will form a pseudo gallbladder and that will work like a gallbladder. So eventually she might be able to, eat bigger meals, but she probably can't really eat big meals anyway, just because of her gastric band. So that's what I would do is just split these things up and try eating multiple times a day and don't drink any water before or during the meal. That makes a big difference. Okay. Chat disconnected. Why is chat disconnected? I don't know why chat's disconnected. Oh, there we go. This is so stupid. YouTube being absolutely ridiculous. Put it on top chats and it says chat is disabled. I'm like, okay. So I put it on live chat and it's like, oh, look, there's all this chat. And I'm like, absolutely stupid. Why would you put it on top chat anyway? Why would that be the default? Like live, just show the chat. My goodness. Like who came up with that? They should be fired. Okay, great, Mike. Sounds good. All right. Question from Monique. I'm starting to blush as soon as I eat something. It doesn't matter what I eat, beef, pork, or eggs. As soon as I break my fast, my cheeks and nose get hot and red. What could this be? This morning, I even had some minor blushing after drinking water and electrolytes. I have no idea, honestly. That's very interesting. I mean, especially like drinking water and electrolytes. You have to sort of wonder what sort of reaction you're getting. Doesn't necessarily mean it's like an allergic reaction or just something's triggering something, right? If you're eating beef, pork, and eggs, and that's doing something where you have to wonder if there's something in there that's triggering that. But if you're just drinking water with electrolytes, then God only knows. So, I mean, if there's a commonality between the meat and the water with electrolytes, it's the electrolytes, right? And so who knows? I don't know if you had electrolytes with artificial sweeteners or whatever, but I don't know if you're on in the chat, but if you are, maybe you can let me know if you have any other symptoms as well, or if it's just some blushing and some redness. If it is that and you don't notice anything else, I just sort of chalk it up to something curious and strange, and just keep an eye on it. And but otherwise, don't worry about it if you're well otherwise. So, question from Wendy: what are the best ways to get fat into a child who doesn't like butter or beef fat or fatty cuts? Uh, Funnel in a tube, like they do with geese for foie gras. I don't know. It's difficult, I mean, kids can be very picky eaters. Sometimes you have to just sort of work with them, and just sort of find different ways and different things that they'll eat. I mean, it's, fatty cuts. Does that include bacon? Most people will like bacon, if they are being honest. And so, it's, might be something to try. If they're okay with bacon, you can do that. Just try to find different fatty cuts. They don't like butter. The thing is too is that, we tell children since they're born that that's bad and this stuff is bad. You don't want to have butter and all these sorts of things, and it really gets ingrained. And so even when I was growing up, I really liked the taste of beef fat and bacon and all that stuff. But I was like, oh my god, the grease! Oh, it's so bad for me. Oh my god! But it was like this guilty pleasure, but I did feel guilty, and I would actually work myself up to feel sort of nauseated that I was eating this stuff. So that I had to unlearn. I had to undo that in myself, and I did eventually. So now I'm, obviously very much a fan of fat. So you can do that with the kids as well. Just sort of start working things up and working things in. Eggs have a good fat content, especially the yolk. If you take away the egg white, the egg yolk is 80% calories from fat, so it's really good. But just the normal eggs is 60%. So it's that's a good source of fat as well. And just see if you can get eggs, if you can get bacon, ground beef. You can increase the amount of fat in ground beef pretty easily without people really realizing that that there's more fat in it, because it's all just mixed in and mixed together, and it tastes better when there's more fat in it. And so you can just sort of say, oh yeah, this is a hamburger. And I go, wow, this tastes really good. And they won't really necessarily know that. So if it is sort of a conditioned response, it'll be less likely to pick that up. But I think you just slowly but surely sort of work things in and just talk to them about, like, actually the fat's really good for you and all that sort of stuff. It's good for your brain. It's good for your body, and so funnel method. Yeah. Just give it a try and see how it progresses, and just sort of keep teaching them and encouraging them and letting them know, but letting them eat sort of things, and then just find different things that are just get a little more fat, a little more fat, a little more fat, and eventually they'll recondition themselves to actually like it again, and it should be okay. But just you don't want to force anything, because then you're sort of going to make them fight against eating meat in general. So still try to find meat that they like. Still find things that they like, and just talk about it, and see if they come around. They usually do. It doesn't like those either. Yeah, I don't know. See what you can do. Hopefully, eventually it'll come around. Question from Joe. Dr. Chaffee, when I drink hot water, like the temperature of hot tea, it often feels like there's a balloon of air in my gut somewhere. Is this bloating? It's not painful, just annoying. After a few seconds, I get the urge to tighten my abs, diaphragm, and I burp. My kids find it fascinating. I just drink regular bottled water. I stopped drinking alkaline water 2 months ago. Would this be an indication of something more concerning? Anything I should get checked? I tested negative for H. pylori, also had an EGD done, and all biopsies came back negative. They found a grade 1, smallest possible hiatus hernia, but the surgeon said it's not concerning at this time. When you have air in your stomach like that, that's because you've swallowed air, really. And so there's probably something to do with how hot the water is, that you're sort of sipping it sort of calmly, and you're just getting in a whole mouthful of air down with you. So that's almost certainly what that's from. It wouldn't be creating gas, like a carbonated beverage or something like that. So if it's just hot water, that's going to be um, that's going to be just from you swallowing air. So just if it's too hot or whatever, and then that happens, that's what it is. But it wouldn't be dangerous. You just sort of you just sort of burp and get it out of yourself. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. But if you don't want that to happen, then just try to drink something in a way that you don't get as much air down. It could be just the hotness of the water is making that easier to take down air as well. And a hiatus hernia, if that's not bothering you, then yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Question from Carmine. In your video with Simon and Scotty Brizzle, you mentioned about a methane gas tax that could be introduced in Brisbane to the farmers of cattle, as much as $3,500 per cow. I find this very disturbing for a couple of reasons. One, my son lives there, and secondly, there seems to be no limit to what these people will go to make a sick population. What do we, the average Joe, do to try and stop this insane plant-based movement? Well, on a political measure, we have to just stand up politically and just be like, well, we're not going to vote for you. We're going to vote you out of office, and we're going to make a big deal about this. You're trying to screw up our food supply and our supply lines. We need to be vocal about it. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so if they can just keep getting away with this, they're going to. And so until people push back and be like, hey, back off, they won't back off. People push until they meet resistance. And so the point is you make that resistance as soon as and as sharp as possible. This is why a lot of people say that, like, no, we're not going to give, because everything, whenever you change something, you don't change something by huge drastic measures, right? Like Hitler didn't just jump into the Holocaust, right? It was very, very slow, controlled steps, and every single step was a logical extension from the previous step. That's the only way you can do it. So you encroach just a little bit, people sort of get tussled with it, and then they sort of calm down and you just get used to it. It's the new normal, as they are always trying to say when doing this to you. And then you get used to that and you step a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. So this is sort of an example of that. And so they never want to push too far, because then people go like, hey, back off. So you have to see what they're doing. You have to understand that they're doing this little by little by little to affect the same results, right? And so this is why a lot of people will be like, no, we're not giving an inch anywhere. Like, well, that's just unreasonable, this, that, and the other. Like, yeah. Well, we know what you're doing. We know that what your tactics are, and it's not going to stop here. Oh, this is all we want. This is the only thing we want. Once that's happened, then we agree with you on everything. Nonsense. It's never the way. They're going to take, you give an inch, they're going to take a mile, always, right? So you just you never give an inch, and so you have to sort of make noise, and you have to say, like, this is not something that I agree with, and I'm going to do something about it. You're not going to get my vote if you do this sort of stuff. That from a policy standpoint, because there are policies going in that are affecting this sort of thing. People want to protest, people saying you should go vegan, and try to influence people through thought and debate. Then that's fair game, and then you can debate them. And that's why I do this channel, to put out the other side of the argument. But it's from a political standpoint, you then have to address it politically, and either make noise and write to your politicians and say, like, hey, I'm really against this. I don't think this is something that we should be doing. That they actually listen to that. If you write an actual letter in, they take that more seriously than a phone call or an email or nothing, because if you've taken the time to sit down and write a letter, like, you're pissed, and this is something you're serious about and you're taking very seriously. It's not like just like a spur, like, I'm angry. it takes time, it takes effort to write a letter and post it and put a stamp on it. Not all that much, but a lot more than people are used to doing right now. So I would, that's what I would do, and just keep pushing this message around, being like, hey, this isn't what it's supposed to be, and the more people that get on board with this and push back and say, hey, we're not on board with this, the better it will be. But yeah, it's difficult. Oh, well, looking tan and healthy. Thank you so much. Oh, I was in the sun. I was in Esperance in southern Western Australia this past weekend, and just in the sun as much as possible. It's been very, very nice. And uh, Mike was saying I'm probably secretly getting ready to give Seawolves one more go. I would love to. It's the my knee. I have just some arthritis on my patella, on the kneecap. The rest of the knee's perfect. It's really frustrating. That's the only piece of arthritis in my body. But as a result, it flakes off bits of cartilage into the rest of the knee, and then the knee blows up, and I can't do anything. So it's really frustrating. So I got my knee scope and got all the little floaty pieces out back in end of September, and so I've been trying to rehab my knee properly, and then go out and actually play rugby this year. And so I went to practice last night, and like, it's definitely overdid it. My knee just wasn't ready to go back. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm really hoping to get this better so I can actually play again. I would or just run again. I mean, I really miss being able to run, sprint, and hit people. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Because my body, I feel great. I can work out forever, but I just, the knee just holds me back, unfortunately. So a question from Mike. What are your thoughts of taking a frozen steak out of the freezer at 4 a.m. and leaving it out to thaw on the counter until 4 p.m. to cook? It is vacuum sealed prior to freezing and not opened until ready to cook. Yeah, it should be fine. I do that with unvacuum sealed things as well. I will take out. It might not even be completely thawed out by then. There's those little weird trays things that just thaw things out. I still don't know how these things work. There's like some conduction thing where conduction plate, you put it on there and then they just defrost right in front of you. It's crazy. But you can certainly leave it out. It's not going to go bad or anything like that. I leave meat out all the time. I'll take a steak out of the fridge in the morning before I go to work and just leave it there until I get back, and then it's room temperature, and you can cook it at a more regular rate, or a more standard temperature and time and things like that. Because like, depending if it comes out of the fridge or or it's actually room temperature, it's different cooking times, right? So, so yeah, I that's fine. If it's vacuum sealed, it's in a case, so bugs aren't going to get into it. That's one of the things. If you're leaving meat out, just flies can get on it. They can lay eggs and maggots and a whole bunch of gross stuff, and that you don't necessarily want. And so that's. But if it's already sealed, that should be fine. Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. Let's see here. So Wendy asks, if you could pick one video and one book to help convert someone to carnivore, what would they be? That's a good question. Well, I am biased, but the first video I ever did on YouTube was is like called like the facts about carnivore and vegan diets, and that was what I did in preparation for a debate on vegan and carnivore diets. And so that I made that specifically to make the argument on why we should do this and not do vegan and not eat plants at all. So I think that covers at least covers most of the main points that I think are important to make. And so I think that video is a good one. As far as books, I mean, you could do Dr. Baker's book. I haven't read Dr. Saladino's book, but a lot of people like it. And that was before he started eating fruit and honey and things like that. It was all just about plant poisons and different sorts of things like that. But I think probably, one of the good ones is going back to, uh, like Weston A. Price or Fat of the Land from Vilhjalmur Stefansson. I think those are probably, uh, you know, fantastic books. And so one of those two, I think, would probably be the best. Um, and then maybe when I finish my book, maybe that book. Hopefully, that will be a good argument as well. And okay. So Mariko asks, I'm 7 days in. I find it super difficult to fall asleep and difficult to wake up. I eat fat and electrolytes. How do you know what is missing exactly? Well, you can take a blood test and you can check your vitamins, minerals, electrolytes, hormones, all that sort of stuff. You aren't missing anything on a carnivore diet is the short answer. But as far as nutrients are concerned, but coming from whatever dietary past you came from, you may be deficient in certain things, but you'll catch up on a carnivore diet. You have to throw some liver in every now and then early on, and that'll help you catch up. But you'll get there. You'll get there eventually anyway. As far as the sleeping is concerned, sort of wonder what else you're eating. Are you still drinking coffee or tea or having any sort of caffeine? People don't, realize this at first, but the same amount of coffee will affect you much, much more extremely on a carnivore diet. And so you'll be much more wired and you'll have much more difficult sleep afterwards. Saying you're having difficulty going to sleep and then difficulty waking up. It could be that you're not going to sleep for so long that you're exhausted and not sleeping enough, and that's difficult to get up. So I would get rid of everything possible besides meat and water, no coffee, no caffeine or anything like that. Make sure that's out of it first, and then optimize your sleep environment. Turn off the lights, turn off screens, get off the phone, get off the computer, stop watching TV at least an hour before you go to bed, lights low and everything like that. It really makes a difference. You get those. I've been playing around with like those blue light blocking sunglasses thing that actually helps. That helps wind you down because you're not getting all this stimulation from the light, and you're just sort of just chilling out. And even if you're on your phone or whatever, you're not getting those blue rays in, waking your brain up. And so I find when I go to sleep, I'm out like that. And so you can do things like that, just turning off the light, turning the lights down low, reading a book, listening to like calming music, whatever, book on tape, podcast, those sorts of things. And then getting all light out of your bedroom, and even using like a sleep mask, mouth tape. All of these little things actually do add up to getting much better sleep. Like since I've started using a sleep mask, I used to just use a sleep mask when I was, on doing night shifts and things like that. And I had to sleep during the day. Like I just could not sleep with the light up, with when it was light out. And so I started using sleep masks. Now I just use them all the time, and I sleep so much better. And so that's what I would do, is make sure you're only on meat and water, nothing else, no caffeine, and then optimize your sleep routine. Go to bed at the same time every night. Really do that. Get morning light. Get outside. Get direct sunlight in your eyes. Don't stare at the sun, but just look in the direction of where the sun is. And you'll get these direct lights. People are doing that cold therapy stuff where you take a shower in the morning, and then just for the last couple of minutes you just put it on like full blast cold water. It's miserable, but you get over it. For the first like sort of 10 seconds it's not comfortable, and then it's actually not a problem. And that seems to help regulate your circadian rhythm, and will help you with sleep and help you with better quality sleep as well. So Liz asks, what are your thoughts on drinking homemade kombucha? I have a hotel container full of scobies and I don't have any room left. Um, I mean, I wouldn't, just me. I mean, it is still a plant. I don't eat plants. And so, having it homemade, you at least know what's going into it. You know if you're adding sugar or not, hopefully not. And if you're buying from a store, it's almost certainly going to be sugar and a bunch of other things in it as well. So it's going to be better than store bought if you make it right. But I think that any of this stuff is not ideal. You know, it's my hard rule is no plants, no sugar, nothing artificial, and that goes for drinks as well. So no sauces, seasonings, or drinks that contain those things as well. So for me, I don't do that sort of stuff, but if you are going to make it and you want to do that, at least making it at home, at least what's going into it. So at least there's that. Okay, let me see here. So I think that's all the questions that were asked, that were submitted anyway. 7 days in. Yep, that's all the ones. So if people have other questions, you can pop them up now, or some comments or anything like that. We can do that. So question from Serena. Thank you, Olivia. Do you know anything about blepharitis that affects the eyes and causes chalazons? Those are not something I have too much familiarity with, especially because I can't even pronounce that word. I think I've seen that written down, the chalazons thing, once. So no, unfortunately, I don't know much about that. So inflammation of the sort of eyes, blepharitis is usually underside. You get like puffy, baggy eyes. Usually that's from different sorts of interactions, different allergies and things like that. You can certainly get it from food. You can get it from allergies to whatever, like cats or pollen or something. So you just have to sort of try to remove out different causative agents that might be irritating things. So sometimes makeup, even the same makeup that you may have been wearing, for years, sometimes you can develop different sensitivities to them, and actually, especially if you've been exposed more and more and more to them, those are more likely to develop sensitivities as well. So I just sort of see what's in your environment and try to get those out and see what helps. So now that Tony has been seizure free for some time due to switching to carnivore, which is awesome. I'm very happy to hear that. How long should we wait before talking to the doc about titrating his meds? Ooh, that's a good question. So, yeah, that's a difficult one. I mean, his doctor's going to be, I mean, this is the same doctor that was saying shouldn't do the dietary things because it works. So God knows what they're going to say. But yeah, he's definitely an idiot. So what we do, and I don't necessarily treat epilepsy, but when we have someone who has a seizure or has had a seizure due to some sort of brain pathology like a head injury or a brain tumor, we keep them on medication for at least 6 months and then reassess. And if we're happy that they haven't had any sort of seizure activity, at that point we look to wean them off. That's going to be a bit, that's as simplistic as it gets, though, because generally those are just one-off seizures due to an insult to the brain, as opposed to epilepsy, right? So epilepsy is a bit more complex than that. It's going to be a bit more persistent than that, potentially. So I would say at least 6 months, and then you can start having the discussion with the gentleman mentioned, and then see what they say. It's it's something you have to be very, very careful with, and I think it would be very important to do that under direct supervision of a neurologist. And if that neurologist is not willing uh, to you know entertain the idea, then you can always get a second opinion. That is absolutely your right. It's your money. It's your child. It's your health. Um, or his health. And so, you guys get to make that decision. And so if he's, just not really interested in helping with that, just said, no, I don't think so. Fine. But that's, he gets to make that decision as well. If that's how he strongly feels, if he thinks that this is in your son's best interest, then he should say that. But you can also get a second opinion, and you can talk to someone else and say, hey, look, here's the thing. We did all these dietary things. He hasn't had seizures. He's doing really, really well. What do you think? And you might find someone that says, look, that's reasonable. We can trial him, step down the medications, and you just do this for a few weeks or a month or whatever. And if that's fine, then you step it down again or whatever, depending on what the doses is. Maybe on a very minimal dose, and you can just stop it with a doctor. But sometimes if you're on higher doses, you need to step those things down gradually. And so I would do that. I 6 months seizure free is sort of a minimum before you start thinking about coming off meds. And then you can talk to the doctor, and if don't like what he has to say, you can always get a second opinion. But I would be very cautious with that, and I would do it with the direct supervision of a doctor. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to jump the gun, but don't want to wait forever. Yeah, 100%. So that's sort of a rule of thumb, is that we would keep people on. If they have a seizure, we keep them on prophylaxis for 6 months, seizure free, before we think about that. Question regarding POTS, hyperandrogenergic. Do you have any experience or advice on how carnivore can minimize this? I don't have too much experience with that. Let me just see something real quick. Having experience and advice on how carnivore can help with minimize this. I can't think of any, any sort of direct evidence or studies or anything that I've really seen. I've seen people ask this a few times, but I haven't had a good answer for them. A lot of these things are still in the, well, let's see what this helps sort of thing. I mean, I know that this is what we're supposed to be eating, and I know that this is what's going to make us, as healthy as we can be, but that doesn't mean that everything is caused by eating the wrong thing, and so it could be that this helps. But I think it's just to sort of try it and find out and see if that does help. I can't guarantee that it will. There's just not enough information on it yet. So sorry about that. Carmine asks, if grass-fed and grass-finished is unaffordable, is grass-fed only good enough? As in grass-fed and grain-finished. Yeah, Dr. Berry has stated that eating Spam would be better than veggies. 100%. Any meat is better than any plant, right? Because all meat is good for you, and all plants are bad for you. You can survive on plants, but that's it. It's survival food. It's not optimal. So as in bad for you, as in it has things that are bad for you, right? Whereas meat, not really. Maybe if it's processed with a bunch of garbage, that are from plants, like sugar and whatever, then yeah, okay. But those are going to be the bad things from the plants, not from the meat. And so I would so grass-fed, grain-finished is perfectly fine. Almost all store-bought meat is going to be that. Okay, so unless you're getting Wagyu, which is just basically giving grains and sugar and alcohol its whole life, most of its life anyway, the majority of a cow's life is just on grass, just out in the field eating grass, doing what a cow is supposed to do. And then in the last few months, they put them in a feedlot and they feed them grain to bulk them up and put on fat and get that marbling that we like, right? So the majority of the cow's life is going to be on grain or on grass. I'm sorry. And so, yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. I get the majority of my meat is that, I get it from Costco. I buy it in bulk. It's just a lot easier. I have better access to things in the States. Like I could just buy a whole cow that was just grass fed and finished its whole life. That was great. That was the best cow I've ever had in my life. It was a 10-year-old cow. It was even better because it had so much more flavor and nutrients in it. But yeah, so no, that's fine. Grain finished is totally fine. Yeah, again, yeah, like Dr. Berry says, like any meat is going to be a better option. I think of it as, I've said this before, but as gold and silver in the Olympics, right? So silver medal lost to gold, but the silver medalist also beat everyone else on earth, right? And that's how I think of grain finished beef. It's not gold, but it's better than anything else. Okay. So it's fine. Yeah. So currently titrating off a seizure medication used for bipolar disorder and have heard upping my fat will help tremendously. What are your thoughts? Do you think carnivore will shorten the withdrawal period? It can. There are studies looking at different withdrawals from like alcohol or benzodiazepines and just being in ketosis, and they find that they have an easier time subjectively, their own interpretation, as well as objectively, they don't need as many medications to sort of get them through the withdrawal period. And bipolar, there's a reason that the seizure medications sort of work for bipolar and seizures and migraines. There's similar things happening. And I think a lot of these things have to do with our cellular metabolism. And that's something that, Dr. Palmer wrote about quite conclusively in his book, Brain Energy. And so, yeah, I think that just being on a carnivore diet with fat and having your ketones up is going to help that, and is going to help your condition, be it bipolar or what have you. So I would I just keep doing what you're doing. And it's like, am I going back to Costa Rica for the retreat? I haven't been contacted by them to do that. I wouldn't mind. I would actually love to go back to Costa Rica. But I'm in Australia. It's difficult to get over there. It is sort of 3 days of traveling, going back and forth. So it's like a day and a half each way. It's like 40 hours, each way. But there are better flights too, which is just a pain in the ass. It just happened to be those ones. They just weren't any good flights available. But no, I would love to. I'd be happy I'd be thrilled to be part of that. And just sort of hang out in Costa Rica again. I'd love to go back there. But I'm not particularly, I'm not involved in it at the moment anyway. But I don't even know when that is. When is that? I don't know if anyone knows, but yeah. So on a lighter note, when I played for the Seawolves, what was your position? Getting stoked for the first game. Nice. So I didn't actually play for the Seawolves. I played for the Saracens that turned into the Seawolves. But when the Seawolves were starting, I was playing with them in preseason, and then I'd already committed to going to Bangladesh, and so I left for that. And then I came back and just got on carnivore, and I was just feeling amazing. So I went back out to play with them, and that's when my knee started acting up, and it just started swelling up. It was really, really disappointing because I was just charging and ready to go. I was just about to start playing with the Seawolves in their first season, and we won like the whole damn thing too. And I was just like, I've been very would have really liked to be a part of that. And then the second season, when I rehabbed my knee, I was back out playing and feeling great, but I just been out of practice with medicine for just far too long, and I was just like, I have to go back and get going again. My brother was just like, why would you do that? Just take another year off and just be part of this sort of thing. And I was like, well, I've already played professionally. I've played at a higher level than this. I don't need to do that. And I need to get on with my career. So I decided to take the job down here in Australia. In retrospect, maybe I should have just stayed and played that season, because I was just feeling amazing. I was in such good shape, and I was playing rugby down here, and I was just killing it. So it was, it was, well, until my other knee actually acted up as well. But I think a lot of that had to do with a lot of the fitness and training we were doing a lot of things like on our knees. And so it was like grinding my kneecap into my knee. And so that's, and we did a lot of that sort of work. It was great core work. It was great fitness sort of stuff. We had a great trainer that we worked with here, but it was just those were the wrong things for me to do with my particular knee conditions. And I was thinking about that all the time. I'm like, ooh, this is probably a bad idea. But I just did it because I was just like, that was a drill, and that's what we were doing. And so then my other knee sort of had the same problem that the first knee had. So who knows? It may have just acted up during the second season and with the Seawolves as well. But who knows? I think I probably could have done it. But my position was in the back row, so I played 7 and 8, predominantly 8, although 7 was my favorite generally. It's just if you don't have a number 8 that knows what they're doing, it's really annoying because it's an important position. But when I was playing 7, open side flanker, I was very, very defensively oriented, and I would make like 40 or 50 tackles a game. It was just like, my friends like described it as like, it was like, I was just a defensive force of nature. Like, it was just like, I could just shut down entire teams, like just me. And you a lot of people have said, you win and lose games by your back three, and in particular, like your open side flanker that can completely change games, because if you're that disruptive in defense, and I had fly halves just literally running scared for me, because if we won a game, and it didn't matter how well I played, if I didn't take the fly half out of the game, I considered that a failure. I considered that I did not do my job as an open side flanker. I needed to punish them so hard that they came out of the game, and I had to sub out because of, just getting just battered and abused. And so when you do that, when you're able to play like that, and you're able to disrupt the back line like that, then like it just shuts them down. They have no offense, So I was always fast enough that I could break out, and I could, the fly half would just have to just ditch that ball away as quick as possible. They tried moves or switches or whatever. I was a very good defender, and I could just pick up and read plays and just always break things up. So it was, I felt that I had more of an impact at 7. At 8, I was much more offensively oriented, and I just ran the ball, and I ran the ball very aggressively. I wanted the contact. I wanted to hit people. If I was going and I had a gap, like I'd be like me one-on-one with the fullback or a winger or something like that. I'd make a break through the line, and I go, and I have like the entire field on either side, and all I have to do is just pick a direction, and I'd probably score. I would like turn and cut back into him, and just to run him over. Like it's such a bad habit to do, but I just wanted to hit people. Like I wanted that physicality. I wanted that contact. And so whenever I did just go, like, I was just like, oh, I want to hit this guy. I'm like, no, I should just cut. And I would do it, and I would usually score, but most often I tried to hit people, and that's just how I played. So yeah, but then I played in the centers as well, just for fun, because I played a lot of 7s, rugby 7s, and I played that at a high level, and just it just sort of was fun, just sort of get out there, and because I was so physical, and because I wanted that contact, and I'm charging through like guys that are bigger than me, and there's multiple guys trying to hit me, and I'm barreling through all of them like bowling pins. You get out playing 7s with like most of these guys are these little spindly guys. Like there's no chance in hell they're tackling me. So like that was a lot of fun. And then I started playing in the backs, like in the centers, just for fun. Just I would play like in like the second side games or something like that. And I played some first side games, Super League games at center as well. I played a season at center just for fun. And I played a couple at wing as well, just when we needed it. But yeah, it's mostly back row. What is my favorite NRL team to support? I actually haven't been watching rugby league here. I haven't just been watching anything. I just don't watch TV really. Like if it's on or something like that, or someone's watching it or it's on somewhere, I'll keep an eye on it. But like, I don't think I have TV. I think I have Netflix, and that's it. I don't think I have like actually like network sort of stuff. So, but yeah. Um, So, question: what are your thoughts on feeding before you train? I like to train fasted, but I've heard there are benefits of switching back and forth. No, I don't think there are any benefits of eating before because you're diverting blood to your digestion as opposed to your muscles, and I just feel terrible. And you're putting yourself in a rest and digest mode, and your body's saying, "Hey, you know, um, conserve energy." So it's not actually mobilizing energy for you to work. It's to say, hey, no, we got energy. We want to shut down. We want to conserve things. And so I always train fasted. If I don't, I regret it. And always, and certainly would always perform best in games matches when I was fasted. So yeah, I would definitely do that. Punisher. I tried to see how many people I could take out of a game. Always legal. I never did cheap shots or dirty things or anything like that. I just tried to, every time I hit somebody, I tried to put them in the hospital, and just every single time. And yeah, so that's just how I played. Because they're trying to do it to you, and it's like one of you is going to the hospital, and it can be you or them. And I think that's an easy choice for me on who I'd pick. So, okay. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it for the questions. Here was one more. Um, I think there's just one more. Is how do we as commoners, not influencers, help spread the gospel of carnivore? To word of mouth, just talking to people, showing your example. You're doing great, and people are like, "Wow, you look great. You're doing well. This is why." And then they'll get interested, and they'll see what you're doing, and they'll see the results, and then that works as a grassroots movement. Before I had this platform, I had you know literally hundreds of conversations with people, talking about the way I ate and why I ate that way. And so I put all these arguments out. That's why I can just sort of regurgitate these things very easily. Is when I'm in discussions with people or debates with people, oh, what about this and what about this, what about this? I have an answer right away because I've done it hundreds of times, and that's why, and that's how you get good at things. You just practice. And so same thing, you'll just talk to people. They'll be interested in what you're doing, and then you'll be like, wow, you only eat meat, isn't that bad for you? And I'm like, well, no, actually it's not. It's really good for you, blah blah blah. And so you just word of mouth, and just showing the example that you're setting, and showing how good your health is, and the health of your family. I think that's the best way of doing it, and it just spreads from there. uh so Mike says, this is a good way, Doc. Your newest slideshow about why we are carnivores is helping me get new carnivore candidates. I was waiting. Yeah, so that's the thing too, is sharing different podcasts and things like that you find helpful and interesting, and that sort of convey this sort of message. That's also a very good way. And when they get interested enough, obviously, if they're just going like, God, you're crazy, that's not going to go anywhere. But you have to sort of like plant the seed of interest, and then say like, okay, well, do you have anything else that I could look into? And say, yeah, check out these podcasts, things like that. So cool. All right. You referenced me in your college courses too. Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Very flattering. Um, Great. All right, guys. Well, I think we can end it there. But thank you very much, everyone, for coming on and joining the live, and for submitting questions and everything like that, and for people watching this at a later date on YouTube. If you'd like to be a part of these live chats, just join the Patreon. That's just Anthony Chaffee MD, and please like and subscribe to the comment and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and the new videos I put out. A couple new videos, long form interviews every week, and we'll just keep doing that as long as people still want me to do that. So, okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you later.